In this video, we're going to take a look at activity 3.1.2, basic outputs programming. And in this video, we're going to specifically look at part 2, which is called controlling one motor. So when we start this out, we're going to start off here, and I'm going to work off of the home page for Robot C when we're ready to start up. So I'm going to go ahead and go to File and Open Sample Program and make sure we grab the PLTW template. Now, if you don't see that or this VEX2 folder in the root up there at the time, go up here to Robot, go down to Platform Type, make sure that you have the VEX 2.0 Cortex and Natural Language selected, and that'll make sure that we can get that template up. So the PLTW template, I'll say Open. Here is your project title. We are Activity 3.1.2 Part 2, and this we're going to be controlling one motor. So you can go ahead and put in some of your information in here. And the class section, task description, we are controlling one motor. Now, Pseudo Code, they give us the pseudo code that we want to go ahead and write. So for example, they say we want to turn the right motor going forward at half speed for 5 seconds. So we'll go ahead and say turn right motor on going forward at half speed. We want this to go on for 5 seconds, and then we want to go ahead and stop the right motor. So there are 3 kind of lines here that we're going to work with on the pseudocode. So they gave us our kind of simple behaviors. I broke it down into some more basic behaviors. So anytime you're looking at a simple behavior or like even a basic behavior, you're just looking at kind of breaking it down into very simple steps as you move forward. Before we get going and writing this program, let's also check that we got our motor and sensor set up, all set up. So I'm going to choose the PoE sim test bed and say OK. What we're going to do now is this is kind of the process that I would take anytime you go to write a program. This was a little bit different from part 1 because we were given a program. This time we have to write one from scratch. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to highlight the pseudocode. This would kind of be the process a programmer would take. I'm going to go ahead and put it underneath the line of the first curly brace, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paste it in. Now I'm going to go ahead and on all of these, let me go ahead and tab these over to give myself some room here. And then I want to put 2 slashes in front of each one. Now I could do it that way, or let me go ahead and undo that. Or if I highlight this, I can right click and say toggle comment, and that'll go ahead and turn that over. So those lines will be automatically toggled over. And then at the very beginning, I can place my cursor there at the beginning of the line. Now, either one of 2 things. Either I can go over here, the easiest way to kind of know like what is exactly that I have to start writing is go over here to, in your text functions section, go over to natural language, click the plus sign to expand, and we're going to go under the movement section. So if you look, these are the different commands that we can use to start controlling some of the outputs. So you'll see here's a start motor command. So if I click on it and drag it down, I can actually drag it into the line there. So now I've got start motor with motor port and the speed. So now you'll notice my comment kind of got taken off. So let me see if I can backspace and kind of bring that in here. So there's my comment. So here's what I want to do is I want to turn that right motor going on forward at half speed. So here on the motor port, I actually have to take out the word motor port and put in right motor. And then I want to put in what speed that it's at. It's going forward at half speed, which would make that 63. So there's my command. If I go through and take a look at the wait section, here's the wait. I can put that in. Wait and the wait time. So here I can put 5 or 5.0, and that way you can go ahead and get that set in there. So let me backspace this to bring this back up to the line, and I'll tab over. So the tab key is going to be very helpful to you. And then they want the stop motor command. So here's what the stop motor is. Drag it in, and then I can go ahead and put this in. Now you're going to notice it's already going to have a lot of the setup here, and there's my I don't want stop motor, I want right motor. And let me go ahead and get rid of some of this white space that we've got going on here. All right, so now this kind of sets up the first part of what they want us to kind of learn or to try out with this particular code. So let me go ahead and hit compile program. You'll notice that now the right motor turns to red text, which means it's recognizing that now we have the right motor being recognized as one of the value or one of the sensors or motors that are in our configuration. So now I'm going to go ahead and hit download the robot, and let's see what behavior we get. So again, we want to look at the right motor, have it run for 5 seconds, and then stop. Okay, so there's our intended behavior, works the way we want it to, and I can go ahead and close that debug window, and there we have our particular, and this would be an example of a fully documented program. We have a task description. Task descriptions could be a little longer, but I just usually kind of use whatever heading that they give us here. Our pseudocode would be what we're doing and basic kind of behaviors, and then copy and pasting that down and then writing our commands based upon the pseudocode that we have from the lines. So now they want us to, as we continue through part 2, modify the program above, so we're the one that they gave us. So here now they want us to go through and modify so that way we have the left motor turn on at the same time the right motor's turned on. So I'm going to go back to robot C. Now here's what I usually like to do is I like to go ahead and take a look at, so here at the beginning of the wait statement, I'm going to go ahead and hit the enter key to create a new line. And I could go and utilize that text function library to drag a new start motor in, but now that I kind of get used to knowing the commands, I'm going to start typing them. So if I do start motor, here if I start typing the word start, you can see there's the little autofill option. If I press the enter key, it'll set that in. Start typing my parenthesis, and actually if I start typing left motor pops up. So if I hit enter, comma, and then they say they want us to go ahead and turn it on at the same time. So I'm going to use the same speed, same direction, and then I'm going to go ahead and make sure I put a semicolon at the end. So because a semicolon is almost like a period at the end of a sentence, that means that we're done with this line, let's move on to the next command line. So this is part of what they would consider calling syntax. So here I can go ahead and I can write my comment of what's going on. And I know I'm kind of losing a little bit of my screen there. There we go. And now you can go ahead and you can see, you know, what we have going on. Usually what I like to do is I will grab this text, copy, and then go ahead and put this also up into the pseudo code. And in that way, that's also documented. We can see that we've got everything going on. So now we can go ahead and compile the program. No errors show up. I can download. And now we're going to see, do we get both of these motors to turn on going forward at half speed? And they both run for 5 seconds. Okay, so now they just want us to go through, and they say to reverse the motors using 2 different programming methods. I go through and say, you know, could you go through and reverse them? So by just putting in the negative values, that's pretty easy to do. You can either type that in, or, you know, could you go through and drag and drop? I think the 2 programming methods are, can you use the text functions, and can you use the regular text editing that can happen there as well. So to me, we've already got the text in here, so I don't know why we necessarily need to do 2 different programming methods. But here we can reverse it, you know, and here you could always change the comments. So this is the last kind of step. So instead of going forward, we'll go in reverse. And we'll change that to match our code and match the documentation that we have going on as well. And then compile, download, and we'll see if we get the intended behavior that they want us to write. All right, so we definitely got that, and usually what I always have my students do, if you're asking for submissions, I always go through and have them submit these programs to see if they're fully documented and do the programs match what are the behaviors that we're supposed to see, and this is kind of what I use to grade from. So as we're moving forward, we'll look at part 3 in another video, but this would finish up activity 312 part 2 for controlling one motor. And even though we added in a second one, we'll go ahead and keep the names just the same. So as we talk about that, because part 3 is going to have us controlling 2 motors. So take a look at that video next to continue through the activity.